Hello, today I'm going to be talking about understanding your urges and being mindful around them. So years ago, before I learned the Beyond Compulsion method, I'd started to learn to be more mindful and considerate around my urges, exploring why do I have the desire. And I even found this journal from years ago, before I learned the Beyond Compulsion method, where, I'm asking myself all these questions. And these questions were supposed to help me in those moments that I had the urges. So let's go to the journal. I'll read out these questions that I had, and then I'm going to talk about where I went wrong with all of this. So the first one, describe the physical sensation as detailed as possible. Describe how it would feel if you gave in to the urge. What do you really need? Why is it so hard to feel uncomfortable for a short period of time? What are you escaping? Why do you want to escape? How would life be if you always gave in to the urges? Now, these questions seem very productive and analytical and like they're going to help me in a moment of compulsive desire. But the truth is, I tried this and it didn't work. I'd always end up relapsing and it just was highly ineffective. It was not a good solution to dealing with the urges. And I think a lot of people nowadays are trying to be more considerate and mindful, and they're exploring their urges, and they'll do that for a period of time, and maybe it'll kind of distract them a bit or like help them be aware of what's going on, and then eventually it's just like, oh, to hell with it, and they go ahead and actually relapse. So this could work maybe as like a temporary thing for a little short while, but it almost always leads to relapse. So why is that? Why doesn't this kind of mindful approach towards urges work? Well, the thing is, when you're in a porn addiction, you have these different parts in your mind, and there's the addicted part of the mind that's going to try and get you to relapse, and it's very clever. It's just as smart as you because it's coming from your brain, and it just wants one thing. It just wants you to go ahead and engage in the compulsive behaviour. And so what can happen is if you try and answer these questions, the addicted part of the mind in those moments is actually going to answer back with like all kinds of rationalizations, excuses. It's going to come up with like these really clever, strategic ways of like convincing you it's going to be an okay idea to go ahead and relapse. And the last thing you want to do in a moment of compulsive desire is start to like negotiate with the addicted part of the mind. Negotiating with addiction is a lost cause. It doesn't work. And so what you want to do instead is have the answers already. Like you want to have a very clear, rational way of dealing with the addictive part of the mind that's already laid out, that's built on really solid foundations, like really solid core principles, like fundamental truths. It needs to be logical, it needs to be rational, it needs to have a very clear understanding of the addiction and the addictive part of the mind. That has to be like laid out already, and then you just go to that, and then that sort of helps you make the choice. You don't want to try let the part of your mind that's already like experiencing the desire make the choice for you when you're having the compulsive desire. Because like when you're having an urge, what's going on is it's like the addictive part of the mind is like active. It's like the addictive part of the mind is doing the talking. So in those moments, you're just kind of leaving it up to the addictive part of the mind to try and respond to these like analytical questions about like describing the physical sensations in your body. Like it's not going to work. It's obviously not going to work. So that's why. And I just wanted to share that because I think people have this misconception that like being mindful about your urges is going to like actually help you, and it may do, very temporarily. But in terms of like a long-term solution where you stop this behavior for good and you feel really good about that and you feel empowered because you know how to actually talk back to the addicted part of the mind, I don't believe mindfully sort of considering and exploring all this sort of stuff in those moments of compulsive desire is effective enough. I don't think it's the one. That's my experience anyway. So yeah, cheers guys. Hopefully this is useful to you. If you want to understand how much your porn addiction is impacting your life right now, feel free to take the compulsion test and get a score out of 100. I'll leave a link to that below. Cheers, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.